name is Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the president of United in Peace, Inc. I'm also the host of the Bradley Report. And this show was being brought to you or put together by none other than the chairman of United in Peace, Inc., who's the producer and the director of this show. She also helped me find the guests that you be seeing coming on to this show. And she's none other than my wife, Terry Marsh. I want to first say to God be the glory, and I want to wish Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Elect, Godspeed. And I want to say to President Tony Prattwinkle, County Board President Tony Prattwinkle, you're still the Cook County Board President and the chairman of the Cook County Democratic Party. There's an election that's coming up in 2020 that's going to help make the decision of who's going to become the next president of these United States. Because debates, the Democratic debates, and I believe the Republican debates, will start in June of 2019. One of the things that's amazing to me, not just the election of Lori Lightfoot and the 50 wards that she got, and the people spoke well. They say 23 to maybe 30%, that was the turnout. She got a nice chunk of that, I think about 70% of that. But what about the 70% that didn't even bother to vote? That's something to think about. But what I'm saying and what I'm asking everyone, because she's now my mayor, so critique, I'm going to do that. Constructive criticism, I'm going to be about that, because that's my responsibility, to aid and assist her, whether she want me to or not, to be one of the greatest mayors in the city of Chicago. So folks, don't get mad when she got to come with a tax to get the revenue in order to pay for the services, in order to pay the employees, in order to take care of the pension funds for the city. But whatever you do, make sure she don't call the tax a pop tax, even if it's taxing the Kool-Aid or the Hennessy. She got to come up with some revenue. But I'm quite sure she will, because she said there's going to be a lot of conversation. I know she already had them conversations on what she's going to do to help have a balanced budget come October this year. Something else that was real key and very wonderful, a lot of us woke up in the city of Chicago after the hoopla and the energy from this election and realized African Americans that was in leadership in this state, in this county, and especially in the city of Chicago. Let me just name a few. Illinois Secretary of State Jesse White, who had received more than 3 million votes. He was the #1 vote getter in the state of Illinois. Not J.B. Pritzker, Secretary of State Jesse White. Then the first African American woman to be elected Lieutenant Governor, and that's none other than Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. Illinois Attorney General, African American, Kwame Raoul. The Cook County Board President, Tony Prattwinkle. She's also the chairman of the Cook County Democratic Party, the clerk of the Circuit Court, Dorothy Brown, the Cook County Clerk, Miss Yarborough, Karen Yarborough, City Treasurer, the new City Treasurer, Melissa Conyers Irvin, ran a spirited campaign. I was seeing at churches all on the west side and the south side as myself and Jesse White was taking Tony around to the churches. We were seeing Melissa. She was out there. True campaigner. True campaigner. President. First African American president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Miss Carrie Steele, the wife of my friend Mays Jackson, the chief judge of the Cook County Circuit Court, Justice Tim Evans, the superintendent of police, Eddie Johnson, and CPS CEO, Janice Jackson. Wow. And last but not least, none other than Cook County States Attorney Kim Foxx, who is now being attacked by a group I'm of the opinion of are a bunch of racist and corrupt individuals based off what I read about them, based off the documentation from the various cases that their membership has been involved in, based off the fact of how they stood in full support of the actions of a lot of police officers that have shot African Americans and the Latinx or the Hispanic community. And the fact that only one officer has been found guilty in 50 years of murdering a citizen within the county of Cook and especially in the city of Chicago. I'm talking about Van Dyke. The fact that all these individuals supported Van Dyke, who killed McDonald. And when you see where the Fraternal Order Police had a protest downtown in front of the States Attorney's office, saying she ought to resign because they say, because of this Smollett case where the young man duped everyone into believing that someone had put a noose around his neck and poured some bleach on him and beat him up, okay? And said that they was representing Trump pretty much and the hate that he has been spewing and the fact that he was gay. So everybody was upset around the country, around the world, including me. Who would do something like this? He was a victim. And as a victim, the victim's family and friends reached out to the state's attorney. The state's attorney has a victim's rights program, a victim's assistance program. So she listened to the victim's family and friends. Then, so that she wouldn't give the appearance of impropriety, she recused herself, or she got away from the case while he was a victim. And I believe turned it over to her first deputy. or first this assistant Cook County State's Attorney. He made a decision, not Kim Foxx. She pulled away while he was a victim. And she definitely wasn't involved in the case when he was defending. But let me make this plain. Speaking as an ex-felon, I'm blessed by God to have a pardon. Whenever they seal an individual's record, that means he's been found guilty of something, or he pleaded guilty to something in order for them to seal his record, because the law says that an individual who has been found guilty of a crime, he can seal his record. You can only expunge where you have been arrested. That's why he didn't put a motion in, or his lawyer didn't put a motion in for expungement, because it would have came out that you cannot get the case or the charge that you was found guilty of, whether you pled it down or whatever it is. If you got a guilty, you can't get an expungement. So for the young man, this lawyer to come out and say he still stand by the fact that he was jumped on, and dude, come on, man. But that being said, for one of the members of the Fraternal Order of Police to say loud and publicly, with cameras around, with everybody with their cell phones around, when an individual asks them about McDonald, and ask him, what do you think about that young man being shot 16 times? That member of Fraternal Order of Police, or that supporter of Fraternal Order of Police, he said that McDonald should have been shot 18 times. And the young man asked him, could you say that again? And he come back and he said he should have been shot 20 times. Same individuals that were supporting Mayor Elect Lori Lightfoot, and I'm glad that the rest of the people within the city came to the aid of Lori Lightfoot and supported her too, because it takes all of us. I'm cautiously optimistic and I'm prayerful. I look at it like this, because I had the other candidate that appeared like everybody hated. So I believe in making lemonade out of a lemon. And I'm saying, okay, now she cut a deal with Fraternal Order Police. Everyone know the deal that they probably cut with her, or try to cut with her, is to run somebody for States Attorney against Kim Foxx. So then the Fraternal Order Police use they bullying of, we're gonna protest against her. This is Chicago police. I'm glad Superintendent Johnson wasn't a part of that press conference where they had superintendents and police chiefs that came from around Cook County saying that Kim should resign because of the Smollett case. And I'm saying, how? I'm of the opinion that their actions is racist and just as corrupt, and it's gonna come out, because it's coming out who they are. Because one thing about an individual being arrogant, he don't care. He just, Kim Foxx represents, to me and many, many others, is the manifestation of what criminal justice reform is in the county of Cook, and especially in the city of Chicago. When you see how many individuals are coming out because of police misconduct, some of the officers have even been found guilty in a federal court and end up in a federal institution. So when you see these young brothers coming out because they were framed, when you see the individuals coming home, they may have been tortured by John Burge, been locked up 26 to 28 years, however many. When you see someone that believes in fair prosecution, if she was white, they wouldn't have said nothing. Her first deputy was white, the one that made the decision and the determination to drop the charges or break the charges down, to let go, to leave Cook County Jail. They didn't say nothing to him. They didn't say, Kim, you need to check that man. They didn't say nothing to him because he was white. So people, especially you women, you can't stand by and let them try to erase the fine work that Kim is doing within that office because they don't feel that an African American woman should have this office as Cook County State's Attorney. I want to say that it's up to us. If we came out 50 wards strong for Lori, why can't we do that 50 wards strong plus the other 30 townships and city strong, because there's 80 committeemen, I believe, that represent the Cook County Democratic Party. And they all came together around Kim. I know, because I was with Donna Moore that ran against Kim and Anita Alvarez in the Democratic primary. I was instrumental in making sure that the wrongful conviction became a part of agenda where all the state's attorney candidates agreed to. Because we got to be agenda prone. We can't get caught up about party lines, especially in a Democratic primary. We can't make the mistake and say it's not important for Kim Foxx to be the state's attorney because she know Tony, President Prattwinkle, who was a fine and an experienced candidate. But the people want to change. So God gave you what you want. When we see what the list I just read off is, don't speak to the volume of the 18 African American aldermen that we have. I don't know the count on the state representatives and the state senators that we have. But by me being out in the various communities, I pay attention to the Hispanic community, more so than the Asian community. Because as the African American street leaders had came together and formed VOTE, Voices of Total Empowerment. That was for ex-felons and brothers from the street organizations, because we felt, Larry felt for sure, that the one way to change their mindset from crime is to get them civically engaged. Civically engaged. When we see the wrongful conviction agenda that's working and the criminal justice reform agenda that's working, that came from brothers and sisters just like me and some Anglo-Saxons, some white and brown, that came together pushing a concept and a narrative that became a policy and fairness and the judicial, within the judicial system. So brothers and sisters that's been incarcerated, y'all are a voice that makes a change for the betterment. So we can't afford to let these racist guys, and they showing you how racist they are. You talking about a hate crime. Van Dyke should have been charged with a hate crime. The way he stood over that boy, that young man, and shot him. So we got a job to do, and we can do it. And that is re-elect Kim Foxx. Stand with Tony, stand with Lori, because we all fall short. Because this is bigger than us. African Americans is who I'm speaking about and speaking to, because that's where I'm from, that's who I am. We got to stand for our babies, grandbabies, and in my case, great-grandbabies. We can't afford to end up with someone that had the mentality of Anita Alvarez to be within that state's attorney's office, or the mentality of former Mayor Richard Daley when he was the state's attorney. And individuals were being tortured by Chicago police officer John Burge, and now all that's coming out. You got a young brother by the name of Gerald Reed that was locked up for 28 years for a crime that he didn't commit. He was tortured. The Illinois Torture Commission come back and said that he was tortured. They, his attorneys, Elliot Zinger and Larry Dreyfus, put together a fine petition asking for a new trial. I know because I've been working with him on it for about 6 years. He happened to do what little part I could do. When the judge gave him a new case, locked up for 28 years, when they gave him a new case, he couldn't go back to Stateville because he was no longer an inmate, for lack of a better phrase, a ward of the state. So they got him in county jail, waiting to have a bond hearing. I want to say this. The man called me and told me, he said, Gator, I haven't felt free in 28 years until they let me know that I had the right to vote. The right to vote. His first taste of freedom in 28 years. And he cast his vote. Now there's a move to make sure that he get out on bond to stop the special prosecutors from wasting taxpayers' dollars by getting these frivolous continuances to justify why they asking for, I believe, $400 to maybe $500 an hour. I'll sit there when you got lawyers making that type of money and they come before a judge and say, Your Honor, we forgot to put the date on this document. How you do that? You should have held them in sanction. How you do that? I watch them come before the judge and say, Your Honor, we didn't receive it. And Larry Dreyfus and Attorney Elect show the judge where they did receive it. But that is so they can come back to the county and say, we need more time to do this. They plan the county and they plan the taxpayers. So I'm saying, keep Gerald and his mom in your prayers. Stay close and stay firm. And pray that one day Gerald Reed and others like Terrence Brooks, like Ivan Smith, like Javan Deloney, three of them are torture victims. And the Torture Commission came back and said they was tortured. And they should have a new trial. I'm saying we need to stay prayerful for them, their attorneys, their friends, and their families. This struggle is hard, but we can't stop. Now that they have elected Lori, we got to make sure that they do not get rid of Kim Foxx, because if we let that happen, that's going to be the beginning of the eradication of criminal justice reform in Chicago, especially in Cook County. I must be having fun because time is moving fast. I want to thank you for listening. But please hear me. Everyone, whether we were against one another in this mayoral race, we all got to be locked on one thing, and that's the re-election of Kim Foxx. With that being said, her being re-elected as the Cook County State's Attorney. It's your mellow, this Gator. And I want to say, to God be the glory.